Do you like playing World of Warcraft? And do you like playing Dungeons and Dragons? Well, I have a server for you. Well, I would like to introduce you to Prophecy World of Warcraft. This is a private server of World of Warcraft. However, it's not going to be a standard server. It is going to be more Dungeons and Dragons-like. Big disclaimer, this server has been in development for around 3 years now, and it is nowhere near ready for even an alpha release. So I am saying disclaimer because this might end up going into development hell. It's to be seen because right now they are very active and they are posting regular updates. So that's remain to be seen, but I am letting you know it's not coming out tomorrow. It's not even coming out next year. But they are frequently posting updates, so it may eventually happen. So right now I am on their Discord server, and they have all of these questions and answers, and I would like to go through them because I feel they give a more appropriate explanation of what this server is. I'll go into it a little bit more, but I would like to start off with this first. So, you might be wondering, what is Prophecy Roleplay and the Fall of Lorderon, which is what the server is called? Prophecy Roleplay is at its core a fantasy role-playing experience using the World of Warcraft platform. Our goal is to tell the story of Warcraft 3 and beyond. Players will have the ability to alter some pieces of their story through their interactions with the world and its inhabitants, all without cost and all without material incentives. Now, from that, what it's trying to tell you is that they're looking to do a Dungeons and Dragons format, just like the tabletop game, only you have an in-game platform to play it through, and it will be obviously using the Warcraft 3 story. And the Fall of Lorderon is the time frame of where it's taking place. I will read the rest of these in a moment, but let me continue on with that. So, it'll be during the Fall of Lorderon, obviously, when Arthas tries to find out what's happening with the plague, and eventually he comes back and Lorderon falls. That's part of the Warcraft 3 story. Now, this is supposed to make a server where you can roleplay within that time period. And from what I can see, you can basically, you don't have to follow that main story. You could just be a person doing their own thing at the same time this is happening. You know what I mean? So, you could be a peasant, you could be a farmer, you could be a knight of Lorderon, you could be a high elf learning magic in Dalaran, something like that, and you can roleplay with other people. Now, what was cool is, from what I saw, I believe they are, I don't know if they're trying to find people that's willing to do it, or if they're actually, like, hiring on people that's kind of like a game master, but they're actually a DM, and DMs will, if you have a group of friends or something, or the like, you can have the DM, take you through various stories that either you have planned or they have planned, and do a campaign in this setting. And again, it doesn't have to be on the main topic, it can be, you know, whatever you want, as long as it's lore, like, appropriate to the setting. Let's see. I'm gonna go through and do a few more of these frequent asked questions. So the next question that is on the frequent asked questions is, when do you plan to release? Prophecy Roleplay, they seem to be changing the names. Prophecy WoW, Prophecy Roleplay, Fall of Lorderon, it's all the same. Prophecy Roleplay is under heavy development and we are a long ways from release. We will announce a release date when we are confident we can adhere to one. And then the next question is this a private server? Yes. We would be unable to edit the world to this degree without creating our own software and server architecture. What are the system requirements? You have to be able to run World of Warcraft Shadowlands. And I'm going to stop right there real quick, because the next question is going to be the same answer. So, they are, unlike other servers where they run off of a 1.12 or 3.3 client patch, they are running off of the current 9.1, 9.2-ish Shadowlands. So they will have all of the models and graphics up to date in terms of Shadowlands, and including the characters, and I will get more on that in a minute. How big is the play space going to be? All of Northern Eastern Kingdoms, everything north of the Thandal Span. So basically, you're only gonna be able to play in the northern top of the Eastern Kingdoms. However, it's not going to be the same size that we're used to in the main game. It's going to be expanded upon. They are actually almost all of the zones are going to have expanded areas. Even you know, like the mountain walls that would divide each of the zones. A lot of that is just empty space for the sake of it being empty, I guess. And they're going to be utilizing every inch of land they can, as well as, you know, like I said, expanding some of it. I have a map that a developer posted in the Discord, and I will show it to you right here. So this is just kind of like what it looks like. It is not really much to go off of, but I'm just showing you this is the area that we're speaking of. Okay, put that away. Oh, here, this next question is exactly what I was talking about. Are there any resized world spaces? Yes, we have resized the locations such as Hillsbrad Foothills, Alturik Mountain, and Silverfine Forest, and Zul'Aman to accommodate for the lore. So it's going to have, obviously, more land, and Zul'Aman will be present. Later on, they talked about Quel'Thalas. I might get there again later on, because this is going to be a long video. But they, I don't think not Zul'Aman, Quel'Thalas will be open at the start, but I think they do have plans to open up, Quel'Thalas. What lore is your team using to build the world? The Chronicle Trilogy is the crux of the world building, but they are mostly focusing on the Warcraft 3. Alright, here's a very main question. How much can players alter the story? To keep it brief, players will be able to alter the story within reason and believable actions. Players could change factional allegiances or the fate of a village and its inhabitants. Metagaming, the Warcraft plot will be prohibited, so do not expect to kill Arthas to prevent him from calling Stratholme. Okay, so basically what it's saying is, you in your personal story, or even something as small as a village that's not a main roleplay hub, such as Stratholme, Capital City, if they, I don't know if they're going to change the name, Lorderon City, Capital City, it's had different names over the years. Undercity before it was Undercity, basically. I think major lore areas like that you cannot change, but small villages, especially ones that will be invented for the purposes of this server to fill in space, you can change the destiny of those areas. You can obviously change the fate of your character and maybe even smaller named characters. You just will not be able to influence larger lore characters such as Arthas. No metagaming, like they said, which if you're unfamiliar with roleplay, metagaming means using knowledge you've obtained outside of roleplay to influence the roleplay. So obviously Warcraft 3 came out years ago, we know the story, we know what happens, we cannot retroactively go back in time and change the fate. Chromie will not allow that. Alright, what playable races will there be? So for the Alliance, they will have humans, dwarves, gnomes, and high elves. For the Horde, you will have orcs, ogres, goblins, and forest trolls. Now, I believe they are using just the standard model when it comes to the trolls. They're just going to have more green variants. They're not going to have the stranger-looking ones that you would see up in Zul'Aman. Like they are like a different model than the ones that we're used to playing. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with ogres. I believe ogres can wear typical armor and stuff. Because, you know, some models in World of Warcraft that are non-playable can wear normal player outfits, like Vrykul and Naga can. I don't know if ogres can, but they might fix it to make it work. I actually do not know what they're going to plan for ogres yet. Everything else is pretty standard. High elves, humans, orcs. I'm gonna get more on the character customization a little bit later. The next question is, what factions can I join? Players can join any and all factions. However, players will be required to join the faction in-game and out of character. So that means, if there is a lore or roleplay reason for an orc to join a faction other than, you know, Thrall's group or something, you will be allowed to, but again, it has to make lore sense, it has to make, roleplay sense. Maybe you're still enslaved as an orc, maybe Thrall didn't get around to you, and you're still in the Alliance as a gladiator or a slave. I don't really know how that's going to work, but that seems pretty lore accurate to me. I mean, you know, what if he missed a smaller encampment that he didn't know about? So you're still enslaved or a gladiator to the humans as an orc. I don't know. Well, we'll find out probably more about that later. This is all just kind of brief what they plan to do. But the next question is, what classes will be playable? Most classes are available in character creation, however some classes may be under the label of prestige class, which must be attained in character or in a special circumstance through an application. We're still discussing this concept. Any classes that do not follow the lore of the Third War period will not be playable. So that means, obviously you will be able to play something like a hunter or a warrior or something standard, but for a very powerful class in the lore like a paladin, paladins, you know, they start off as typical knights, and through progression, through knighthood, through training, and such extensiveness, do they eventually rise to the rank of a paladin. That's what Arthas had to do. So that's what they're talking about mostly. There are a couple of classes that are listed as that, paladin just being the best example to use. I believe they said, Warlock and possibly Shaman too. I have to double check on that, but we will get back to that momentarily. But yes, they you have to be able to get there in character and work your way up to it, or if you send in an application, which I don't know what the application consists of, but it's to prove, yes, I know how to play this character, I can play it in a way that's lore accurate, very roleplay friendly, then I believe they will allow you to, but they are limiting how many people can be one, because again, it is a prestige class. Not everyone running around is going to be a paladin. Now, I don't think that means there's only going to be like one per server. It really depends on how popular this server will become, how many people play. Maybe 10, maybe 20% of the, no, 20% seems a bit too much. Maybe 10% of the player base can be paladins, for example. So it's going to be like seeing a, not the high warlord ranking for PvP, but like the two under it, like the rank 2, or not rank 4, it's rank 14, rank 13, 12, something like that. Like you'll see like a general or something. You'll see them more often than a high warlord, but not often. If you see them, like, oh man, they're badass, you know what I mean? There's only a few more questions, and then we'll get into a few more things. Is there permanent death? They say yes. Now, because this is a Dungeons & Dragons similar style server, I don't think that's going to be an issue. So basically, if you're familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, if your character dies... Now, there are ways to prevent death in terms of saving throws and stuff like that. So, I don't think you're going to, you know, just get one hit killed. There is HP, you will have friends, there are saving throws, stuff like that, if they decide to go that route. Not everything is fully confirmed yet, but if they go that route, there are ways to kind of help you not die if you get into a really bad situation. However, if you do happen to die, your character stays dead, there is no resurrection. Now, that's the Dungeons & Dragons route. If you're familiar with role-playing on World of Warcraft itself, or any other role-playing server on any other game, sometimes people kill off characters just to kill them off. They want to move on, make a new character. Sometimes shit happens and a character will die. However, sometimes people kind of like do all this wibbly-wobbly magic mumbo-jumbo, and then the character is suddenly back. So they're not going to allow for that, and that makes total sense. Now, where I have an issue is So I've asked a question already, but it has yet to be answered. If they do answer it, I will either write in text on my video when I'm editing, or put a comment in the video below. But I asked the question if there will be more, if there would be the standard quests that you would find in a typical World of Warcraft server, such as, you know, like, go out and find and kill this character. Now, I do not expect them to have, oh, go kill 20 bears. That's very MMO. I do not expect them to have that, but they might have typical standard quests such as, hey, we're having this issue, can you find out what it is and exterminate the problem, or find and solve the problem, you know, something like that. I expect them to maybe have something like that, because they do say that they plan to have a gold system, so that would be a way to obtain gold and gear. They said they do plan to have gear acquirements, but they have not fully gone on to how you will obtain it except through roleplay. They did say that you will be able to obtain some sort of roleplay gear at the start, but they are still discussing it. And I want to talk more on roleplay gear in a moment. There's still a few more questions that I want to talk. So, the next one is, can I build my own base? And the answer is, players will be able to settle or purchase land, especially relevant during the Fall of Lorderon. However, if you squat or illegally settle, or you can squat or illegally settle at your own risk. So, I still don't know how that is going to function, but if it's anything like, I played once a Conan Exiles roleplay server where you could buy land for however much gold that they put, and you could buy like the plot of land, and if somebody wants to come and settle on it, it's because it's your land, you give them the terms. You say, oh, it's free, you can go and live there as you wish. Do you have rules set? You cannot kill, cannot murder, is it free for all? Do they have to pay you a one-time sum or pay you rent in order to live there? Or do you want no one living there, and anyone who comes and settles, you have the right to evict them, and if they do not move on their own accord, you can destroy their base. I think that's what they're going to be going for. That sounds very similar to what I experienced on the Conan Exiles server. So, usually that's okay, and with a expanded land, there should be more areas to do so. I don't know if they're going to be doing instanced or in-world plots, but from what other answers I've seen, it looks like it'll be in-world plots, but I'm still not too sure on that. And then it has a, how do I support this project? They have Patreon, and anything that related will be in their Discord channel, and you can get to their Discord channel by finding one of their YouTube videos. All you have to type in is Prophecy Warcraft. This will be, this right here will be their channel. Let me fix this up for you. Okay, through the power of editing, I have now found it. So this is their most recent trailer. It's just a cinematic. It takes place like in first person for a brief moment, and then it just kind of, whoa, that's kind of loud. It just kind of goes through like a storybook. Well, not really storybook, but like almost like a journal. Like, oh, this is the fall of Quel'Thalas. This happened, signed by this character right here. And then it flips through and does the next one. The Betrayal, and you see Arthas right here, and there's Lorderon with the blood splatter. That's just their trailer, but they do have, if you go to their YouTube, they only have a few videos, but they have fly-throughs of some of the already finished areas. So there's, right here, Lorderon Farms. Let me skip a little bit ahead. And that's what it looks like right there. It's very high res, very detailed. It looks amazing. Look, you can see even like the feathers and the chicken coops on the floor. It's really well done if you look at all of their stuff. Now, at the end of the video below, I'm going to be having a slideshow of every single screenshot I could find from their Discord channel. And I will be showing that to you, but I'm going to put it at the end, so if you want to just hear what else the server has to offer first, then you can go and check that out later, or if you don't care to, then at least it's not in your direct way. Now, let's get on to the next thing. Okay, so I went into their Ask the Dev Anything section, and I found a bunch of answers Now, a lot of them were repeated, and some of them were not really relevant or not interesting. I went through all of them, and I put them on a little notepad that I'm looking at right here. I will be paraphrasing some of this because some of them have very long questions and very long answers. So I will be paraphrasing to kind of get through all of them. But I only went through and picked out either the most interesting, relevant, and a couple of funny ones. So the first one is, what will the system of skins be for character models? And from there they answered, if you can play, if you can be something in Shadowlands, that's basically what you can be. And by that they mean the sub-race's skin, and they clarified that saying, you can only be a sub-race of a previous, our playable race, if that skin is the same skeleton. And what I mean by that is Magar orcs. They are only a brown skin orc. A High Mountain Tauren is just the moose antlers on a normal Tauren. The green coloration for the forest trolls on just the normal troll model. High elves are just blue-eyed elves. Dark Iron Dwarves are just dark-skinned dwarves. Anything that related where it's the exact same skeleton, just a different skin, those will just be skin options on the characters themselves, and not a new race that you can pick from. But anything that you can pick from in terms of those kind of characters will be all in the character customization. If it's in Shadowlands right now, it will be playable on this server. So the next one, this is a short question, but I will read through the answer. Are there essentially planned places for each race? And the answer was yes. For the less obvious races, we have a gnome hub in Lorderon, we have a dwarf fort in Dungarok, and also Ares Peak. The orcs have a Frostwolf Keep, and also Thrall's Base Camp. Goblins are a neutral race, so they will be accepted by both Horde and Alliance. They can come and go as they please. Ogres will have their own small camps that are scattered around because they don't have an actual village or city in Lorderon, so they will have just small encampments. So this one is kind of, this next one is kind of a little bit expanding upon something that we said earlier. The question was, how much deviation from the story will be allowed? Imagine how somehow we get Arthas to not purge Strathalome. So they already said before that Strathalome is going to be purged because we cannot metagame. However, they did expand upon it, and they said, for scenarios such as these, we already know some of the answers. If Arthas never takes Frostmourne, he never becomes the champion of the dead. Does he survive? Who knows? But we know he doesn't become the champion of the Scourge. If he doesn't become the champion of the Scourge, another would take his place. For scenarios we don't have answers to, we will carefully determine the outcomes for ourselves. Many nerds here, I'm sure we can provide a satisfying outcome. So that means if something does happen that relates to a larger thing happening, like a snowball effect, then they would be able to find a more satisfactory and satisfactory conclusion that would make lore sense. The next question was, is there a dress code, and will it be time period? So also restrictions. So they did say that there will be minor restrictions to your outfits and such, but they will allow you to wear whatever you want as long as it's time and lore appropriate. Which by that they mean you will not be walking around, in their example, Maw gear. So you will not be wearing Maw gear, but maybe if you're a human, you could wear a big, winter, big sailor coat from Kultiris. You would be able to wear something like that. I think there's another question that I found later on, but I'm just gonna say it now. The question was basically, will there be custom armors? And they said, no, there will not be any custom-made armor. However, there will be different tints and colorations for already existing armor. The next question that was asked by somebody on the Discord server was, will add-ons such as Total Roleplay and the like be included in the game download? And the answer was, yeah, we can bake what add-ons we want people to use fairly easily and keep it updated. So it looks like they might be able to integrate Total Roleplay. I don't know if it's going to be just the mod itself that's included in the download, or if they're going to integrate their own system that acts as Total Roleplay in there. I'm not too sure about that. That wasn't really clarified, but it does mean we will have roleplay add-ons and other add-ons that will be somewhat either included or integrated into the server. The next one will be, will there be any prior releases? Let me start over. So the next one will be... So the next question is asking if there's going to be an alpha or a beta of the server before launch. And the answer is yes, but that will be told when they're ready to do so. They are not ready at the moment. So the next question is actually fairly funny, so I added this one in. Somebody asked, will we be able to shoot machine guns? So the answer was, by the time of Warcraft 3, all machine guns are mounted on something, be it the ground or a flying machine. Gnomes currently have their own civil war in this time period, so their influence will be very little. Don't expect air shipments of machine guns for the Scourge. So I expect to see some guns. I mean, there has to be some sort of guns and artillery from the dwarves at least. So I do expect there to be guns, but probably not Call of Duty style, like this one, like he said right there. So the next one is, how will stealth work in general? Hiding in a bush, or is it restricted for rogues? And if so, will rogues be able to stealth about in broad daylight, or will there be rules for it? So then the answer was, rogues use magic to do what they do in lore, rather than sneaking. However, we can implement some stealth skills for players that will hide their nameplate but still leave their body physically visible, so you have to actually be well hidden to hide. So that would be, that's actually pretty cool if they do implement that. So even if you're not a rogue character, you would be able to kind of like sneak up on somebody. Maybe you're trying to eavesdrop instead of, assassinate. Because, that would be a more rogue thing if you assassinate someone. But maybe you're just trying to eavesdrop, so you could turn off your nameplate and kind of like hide behind a pillar, and you would have to be like physically like poking your head out for them to see you. So that's a pretty good question, especially for a roleplay sense. The next question was asking how far along they are. The answer was, we're 95% done with Tirisfal. There are just some changes they want to make. Silverpine is 60% done. Hillsbrad is 20% done. Overall edits perhaps are 30% done. They are still working on the world itself, and they have not worked on any of the systems yet. So that's a big clue as in how long this is going to take. Because systems are probably what's going to take the longest, given all the coding that has to be done. That's why I said at the beginning of this beginning of this video, that don't get your hopes up just yet. This might end up in development hell. They've already been in development for 3 years, and they're not even halfway done. The next one is a funny question. Will the Pandaren be playable because they are in Warcraft 3? No. Is there a chance that players will be affected by the plague grain and be turned into undeath? And then the answer was, players will be excluded from covert means of plagued grain. That means you cannot eat the grain and become undead, basically. And this one we kind of covered a little bit earlier, but it was asked again. Will there player housing? How will it be handled? They haven't gotten to that yet. Feel free to suggest things in the meantime. So while they do have plans for player-owned farms, because they do say that, I believe it's mentioned later in this list I made, and they have said guild housing and such, and players can influence villages. Somebody asked about standard player housing. At the moment, it is not planned, but they might add it in later, and it's not off the table. It's just not currently being planned. The next question is, will it be possible to play as a Scourge character, such as a second-generation Death Knight or a Cultist of the Damned? it will be allowed in a limited capacity. There will be more details on that later. And now this is kind of like a I don't know what's happening, because right there they said, yes, you will be able to play as a second generation Death Knight, Cultist of the Damned. But then the next question was, can I be a villain? And the answer was yes and no, depending on the concept. Scourge won't exactly be playable, so you cannot play as a Scourge. So he says you cannot play as a Scourge, but just beforehand, and this was like a couple questions up, it was said, yes, you can play as a second generation Death Knight, which is a Scourge Death Knight, because first generation Death Knight are Horde. So I have no idea what that is. Later on, they had this whole big list of what, like, rules to playing a villain, and that was just a bit too complicated. If you wish to read all of that, please feel free to join their Discord channel and read upon it yourself in the Dev Answers tab. Now, the next question was, will we be able to see the Red Caverns in Alturik? Yes, it is planned. Alright, so this one I already talked about earlier, but the question was, will you have plans to make Isle of Quel'Thanas accessible? Eventually, likely not from the start. That's to be expected. That probably will be like a DLC or, you know, expanded patch or something. So this one was actually very, this was a very good question. Somebody asked, will they allow for naval combat, buying, building your own ships, and the like? That way you could be like a Kultiris. Now, they gave a more, a question that explains why it won't be possible to do it as the person is imagining. What they say is, mechanics-wise, speaking as a non-dev, ships and zeppelins are not controllable, such as, you know, the ship models. They are not labeled as, like, vehicles. You cannot just jump in them and move them where you want. Now, they said they might be able to do something using the vehicle mechanic, such as the, you know, like the siege engines, and there are different seats so multiple passengers can jump in, because there's a boat you can control as a vehicle in Thousand Needles in the Cataclysm updated version that you can kind of like swim around with. It's like you become the boat, you're not actually on the boat. So they might be able to work something out to kind of make it kind of work, but it will not be how you planned. And then the other thing they said is the only other thing they could do for naval combat, if it was a if there was a roleplay naval battle in the middle of the ocean, the only thing they would do is have the boat spawn with all the players on top of it, and they would either be stationary, or if they have to move, they would have to constantly teleport the boat with everybody on it every time the boat moved. So that would be very, they would have to have a GM do that every time somebody needs to move their ship, which is not practical. So they might be able to figure something out using already existing in-game mechanics, but they will not be able to expand upon it in any way, but they might be able to play around with it, so that's something to consider. So the next question was, will there be typical survival game mechanics, because this is a roleplay server? Will there be eating and drinking and sleeping? And the game dev says, no, that will not be present in a mechanical sense on this server, but you are more than welcome to roleplay it out. And the last question I have right here is, will the monk class be available? Because there were, you know, no playable monks in the earlier expansions, but you later on became one in Pandaria. However, they existed prior to Pandaria in the lore. Hell, you see some monks in Scarlet Monastery, for example. Now, the answer was, monks did exist in history lore-wise. They weren't exactly the same as the monks we see in Mista Pandaria, even if they did breathe fire and stuff. But I would personally like to see them, but I can't single-handedly make this decision. We'll let you know. So it's very possible that we might have the monk class available on this server, but it is not confirmed just as yet. Oh, and while recording the video, it looks like I have gotten an answer to my question. So give me one moment to read. Okay, so they gave me a short answer and a long answer. I went through and read the long answer. So my question to them was basically, will this server have typical mechanics that you would find in in retail or on another private server? You know, like kill, collect quests to gain gold, to get gear, all that stuff. they said there will not be typical quests. Well, there's two things I got from that. At first, they said no, there will not be any form of quests and dungeons and stuff that you would find on a typical server. However, they might have such where you can go up, their example was you can go up to the town mayor and he says, hey, can you go up into the mountains and look for my cousin? In which case, you would have to gather other players and go up and try to find them by asking around to see if anyone's seen him and the like. I don't know if that's a mechanical thing or if that's all player driven or DM driven, but there are quests, but not in the typical World of Warcraft sense. And on top of that, the reason why I asked that is because with the one death rule, now, as I said earlier in this video, I believed it was going to be in just a roleplay sense, a D&D sense, and not in a mechanics-based sense, and it looks like they confirmed that. And on top of that, they're not going to allow something like a disconnect to cause you to die. If you die, it will be because you chose to do a battle to the death with somebody. So that would be the reason why your character dies, not because of something stupid that happened that was out of the player's control, or like even the DM's control, like a disconnect, or something stupid like somebody who's never roleplayed before, has no concept of what roleplaying is, and they just come up trying to stab everybody. I do not think they're going to allow that. So I believe that answers my question. There's a whole long post. I'm going to go ahead and screenshot it, and I'm going to post that so you can read it at length right after I'm done with this clip. And then after that, you will see then the screenshots of the server so you can see how it is. So, I believe that covers pretty much most, if not what I can gather from what this server has to offer. This is a very long video, even after editing, I can already tell, and I hope you enjoy learning about a brand new server that will be more D&D style rather than vanilla WoW, Wrath of Lich King, or just current World of Warcraft style like most servers are, just with you know, updated mechanics and graphics. This one is going to be completely different, basically a Dungeons and Dragons board, but in-game to give you that visual for people who need that visual in order to roleplay, because I know there are people like that. If this server ever does come out, I do believe I will play it, because I've always wanted to do a Dungeons and Dragons style roleplay with World of Warcraft lore, so this actually seems pretty good. And it seems that my issue with the one death with the one death has been put to rest. So I am actually now pretty interested in this server. I will be keeping you up to date if there are any updates, announcements, but it looks like they're not going to be out for a while, so I would just do them in clusters. I'm not going to do them every time I see an update. Hey, we have a brand new model to show. I'll just be doing it in clusters, maybe once a month or so. Now, all of the screenshots, some of them are work in process. Work in process. So some of them are going to look a little iffy, but most of them look fantastic. Now, as of all the questions that I just read out to you, all the questions and answers, they were all fairly recent. The farthest back I saw was in August of this year, 2021. So that's only a few months old. All of these other ones are current. This question I just asked only like 30 minutes ago or so, an hour ago, and they already answered it in a full-length discussion. And there are questions before mine that were from today and yesterday, so they are actively answering questions and in detail to the best of their ability. So that's fairly good. And like I said, they are very active on their Discord. Their Discord is slowly becoming larger. I think they're at 600 people or more. Hopefully this video finds a few people to kind of give them an idea and get more attention to this project. And with that, I am done with this video. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy the slideshow.
don't even know I can talk with this. God damn.